Right, hello and welcome to our latest Laois Today Christmas interview video series, and I'm joined by two greats of Laois football, John O'Loughlin and Ross Munnelly. We often have the sort of chat of the different status of GA people, and we have stars, greats and legends, so I don't know where you'd rank yourselves or where you'd rank each other in this, but definitely high up on the list with the two guys here. Good year, lads. Happy with how 2018 went?
Yeah, reasonably happy with the league. It was important after back-to-back relegations.
Yeah.
That we progressed through Division 4 and got promoted. That was really important. And then we had a good run in Leinster. Disappointed with the Leinster final, and then would have liked to maybe turn the screw on Monaghan, but we weren't good enough on the day. So I suppose in overall terms it was a decent year with a lot to do this year. Again, we'll want to have a strong league campaign and have show a bit more consistency in Leinster again this year. So a lot of work to do, and we're looking forward to it. Yeah.
How did it compare? Like, was it more positive? Like, it was more positive last year. Like, you've had a couple of sort of hard years there, the last 3 or 4 years leading into this year. Was it how much more enjoyable was it the last year?
Yeah, well, I think when you're winning games, it makes a huge difference. It's easier to go training. It's much more enjoyable. It's obviously when you're in and around training, there's more banter, there's more fun, and everyone's really buying into it. So you're always looking at a stage in the campaign where maybe something doesn't go that well, and it breaks a little bit of your momentum, and that's when you really see how well things are going. Because you have to really knuckle down and maybe overturn a bad result and so on. So you're always looking at how as a group you react to a situation like that.
How, like, I suppose you've been around like 15, 16 seasons, like, how more enjoyable was last year than the previous year? Like, you were a couple of bad league defeats the previous couple of years, you had a couple of bad championship defeats, big qualifier losses. Like, previous year Clare gave you quite a beating in Portlaoise. Last year your Leinster final, you had a big game up in Navan, you had a league final. Trip to London, I know, was new. Like, it must have been, was it a much different experience the last 12 months? Yeah,
it was, and we've been very lucky in Laois for a long time. We had just been operating in Division 1 and Division 2, and then we had those back-to-back relegations, and we're trying to put that right at the minute. And last year it was enjoyable, and there was the novelty, the fact that we had to go to London, and they had a new stadium, and we played against Carlow 3 times, so 3 local derbies, and as you said, there's nothing like playing in Croke Park and playing the Leinster final. But having said all that, we didn't win, and we didn't get as close to Dublin as we wanted to. And as enjoyable as the year was, it was still our last 2 games were a really good barometer of how much improvement that's still left in this team.
How would you view the year, John?
Yeah, it was an enjoyable year, and especially coming from back-to-back relegations and a lot of inconsistency down through the years. I think the biggest thing I can take from this year is we were consistent in that we beat the teams that we were favourites to beat or in and around our level all year. It was great to get to a league final and win that, obviously. I thought London was great. I thought really the Laois supporters came over in their numbers that weekend, and the whole atmosphere after the match was brilliant. And I know it was London, but we were put to the pin of our collar that day, and we had to show a bit of a character to win the match. And then the 2 days against Carlow, the last round of the league and the league final, and it set us up for the championship. And like, we've been very inconsistent the last years in the championship, in that we might win a match we're not expected to win, and then a match we're expected to win we didn't win. So again, going back to the consistency, we 3 great victories in Leinster. As Ross said, the Dublin game was a bit of a reality check, because we were comprehensively beaten. And Monaghan, I think we were beaten comprehensively, but they are 2 of the maybe top 6 teams in the country. But I'm going to say it again, consistency. If we can keep with the consistency of winning the games we should be winning, and trying to really get further up the ladder.
Would you consider it a successful season?
Relatively successful. We didn't want to be in Division 4, but that's the way sport works. You sometimes are where you don't want to be. We got out of that, which was one of our goals this season. We won 2 matches in Leinster for the first time, I think, in 10 years. We got to a Leinster final for the first time since 2007. So relatively successful, but you know, we want to be closer to the Division 1 teams, and we've a good bit of work to do.
Jono made a brilliant point there about the supporters getting in around us, and it's one thing. Like John is always talking about, you know, you have to bring the Laois people with you, and you bring them with you if they see that you're honest and that you're working hard and that you play right to the end. And there was after some of the games and in the lead up to the Leinster final, even after the Monaghan game, the amount of young people at the games was brilliant, and it was great to see so many kids, and that has a knock-on effect for 10 years time. It's really important.
After the Monaghan game, incredibly disappointing to lose. You know, again, it was an eye-opener to see where the top teams are. But the Laois public after the match, I was surprised at how grateful they were towards the players, and in comparison to when we've gone out of the championship in previous years, you want to fall into the ground and not look anywhere. But the people came out onto the pitch and they were just, I think because the Laois football team this year gave the supporters something to support. They knew that when they were watching the match, they were going to get something. It wasn't inconsistent.
And it followed into the regional games and as well. Like there was some really good crowds.
There's a bit of buy-in to that.
I think people appreciate hard work, and no matter what you're doing in life, if you always work hard and you give it your best effort, people respect that. For us, it's hopefully we're on an upward curve. We have to continue to work hard, but there's a lot of big challenges that lie ahead.
Division 3. Both of you, like, was it, John, you were going to be 30, 31 next year?
I'll be 30 next month.
Next month, okay. Like, it's wrong, I suppose, but retirement does come into it. How much longer would you see, or have you ever considered calling time on Laois? Or were you ever disillusioned with how things were going? That
no, listen, bad championship defeats or bad league defeats, it's a lonely place, but that's the way sport works. You know, when you put a lot into it and it doesn't come off, you know, it's emotionally tough. But you know, the way I've always seen Laois and football is, you know, I'm not going to be able to play for Laois forever. So why would I not play when I'm able to? And I'll never put a number on retirement or an age. Just as long as I'm fit, I can train hard, I can contribute to the team, I'll play for Laois as long as I can.
And you're the same, Ross, like you're probably the longest serving inter-county footballer in the country now.
Probably not. There's probably a few, but no, signed a new 3-year deal, double the money. Give me a car as well, so we're good. It's a Laois today,
Well, we give you a hat.
I'll pick up the keys right away. Where's the Christmas album?
We have one of them for you as well. John, I suppose both of you, all your adult lives you've been playing for Laois. You know no different, I suppose. What's your earliest memory of involvement with Laois, be it underage or senior? Was it always something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I suppose when I was growing up, I played a lot more hurling. I went to Rossgrey, and in Rossgrey it was hurling or rugby. There was no football, so I just played a bit of rugby, but I really got into hurling. So I suppose
Hugh MacDonald was obviously a
very influential principal I had, who was a hurling man. You know, small ball, and that was it.
Because you had a medical rugby player out here, I'm sure if that. Would have been good number 8, I'd say.
Gaelic games is my first love. I suppose going to, I think I was on a Laois hurling panel back in 2002. I remember watching Ireland playing against Cameroon in the World Cup. They drew 1-1, and then they went out to a trial in Raheen back in 2000. I think that was the first
under 14.
Under 14, I was under 13 that year. Then the following year I was playing hurling and football under 14, and then just followed up from that.
I make it like, I know you played 3 years minor hurling for Laois and 2 years minor football, 4 years under 21, and you've been non-stop ever since.
I played 3 hurling, 2 minor football, and I played 4 years under 21 hurling and football. So it's been pretty hectic since 2005.
What has been the high point playing for Laois?
I suppose winning a Leinster minor and under 21 in the same year in 2007, and I suppose as senior wise this year getting a bit of silverware, and I suppose playing in Leinster final. It's a nice, I find a nice achievement, and it's nice to play in the Leinster final, albeit not incredibly happy with the result, but it's something to build on and realise that you can do it. Now just get the consistency.
What's your earliest memory of being involved?
Probably, I would say not making under 14 Laois under 14s,
Right.
going for trials and not making a waiting for a phone call and not happening.
Okay. And you were up to the age at the time.
I was about 13 because I'm
Oh,
December.
late in the year, yeah. But
I lose
your
out
last
in the
year
year.
under 14 though,
It
was
would
it?
have been, yeah. So I'd have been 13 because I missed out 7 days on the second year. So so that was probably my earliest memory, and then following that.
How disappointing was that at the time?
Hugely, hugely, because at that stage, Larry Wall in Ireland he was bringing me to all the Laois games, the minors, the seniors. We'd go to Croke Park, and he'd just call to the house and bring me every week, every Sunday. He'd be bringing me, and that's why he always said about working hard and you have to practice and you can never miss training, and instilling those kind of values in me from a very young age. And I just remember not making under 14s and being really, really disappointed, and stuff like that provides the motivation to go on and
you made it under 16 level then, did you?
Made it under 16 for 1 year, and then obviously the minors after that, and under 21s and so on. So
you mentioned Larry Wall, so he is one of the biggest influences on your career.
Yeah, then, definitely, yeah, especially in those younger years, because he was our manager in
school.
Ireland's national school, and then he had all of us training with the Ireland seniors, or we were junior back then. From the time we were 13, 14, we used to play in the matches. He brought us all with him, and so on, and it was brilliant. It's probably one of the reasons that the bond in Ireland is so strong, because we used to be playing probably in the corners, and every now and then they'd throw us a ball out in the game and we'd battling among ourselves and so on.
So for as long as you can remember, like Chris obviously was a couple of years older than you, and Ireland is a small setup, let's say, but there's a direct line back down to the youngest players from the older guys, and Larry Wall, who would be, he's a giant of the game in Ireland, I'm sure.
Huge, and it was brilliant to have him back as manager last year, and we had 4 unbelievable championship games last year. We could have won all 4 and lost all 4. It was they were brilliant games to play in. But that's probably my earliest memory, earliest disappointment, and then around that time the Laois minors were going really well and stuff, and just remember all those. He'd pull up outside the house, jump in the car, and away we'd go every week. So it was brilliant. And
the Laois minors, you say, were successful at the time, of a similar vintage to you. So I remember those underage teams, and that to get up to that level, that was I suppose that was the goal, obviously, and that's what sort of, I suppose, sows a seed in it, isn't it? Yeah,
it was, and it was. But I would more so say it was training in the field in Ireland.
Okay.
And at that stage, you had young Larry Wall, Owen Mooney, Mick O'Mooney. Niall Kelly, James Conway, Padge Conway, all those lads that
Jim Wall,
were it's so many of them to name. They were more so my biggest influencers in terms of the players that I would have looked up to, because as a 12, 13-year-old in the field, looking at those lads and going to all the games and kicking ball at training, it was them that was always pushing me on rather than the Laois minors. That, even though it was a brilliant time.
I was just going to go quickly. I suppose you had the Mick O'Dwyer years. Like how do you look back on those now? Like when you look back, like anytime we look at pictures, that year 2003 was just crazy. Like it was, and I suppose we thought that it was new to us at the time, but we thought it was going to last forever. But it must have been just a magical couple of years when Mick was here.
It was, and it was really because he made people believe that they could achieve things, and made the county believe that we were up there and we were able to mix it with the big boys at the time, and we were. And this year had shades of that as well. When you see the people that were coming to training, and there was kids had jerseys and flags, and it was starting to build that kind of momentum. And
I remember back in 2003, Mick used to play the Blues v White games on a Sunday evening, and there were like 2,000 or 3,000 people at it, and paying probably €10 or €15 to get into it. And he had the supporters night this year, and it was similar buzz to it, as you say, but it was just, I watched the documentary on Mick, and I suppose just those 4 years, like they were just such an unbelievable time. What are your memories of it, John? Because you'd been younger.
Just a magical time for Laois football, really. I remember being at league matches there in 2003, and the stand was full, and I remember played Fermanagh, played down a few more matches, and it was just, you had to be at the matches. If you weren't at the matches, like, what's wrong with you? And then going into the championship, and the day was Mick Lawler got the goal against Offaly that day. Like, the stand was just packed, the atmosphere, and then the replay in O'Connor Park, and just all the matches that year. And I remember being at the Leinster final, and I was at Upper Canal, and just the race down the steps, or the ramp to get onto the pitch. And I just remember sprinting out on the pitch and coming back to Portlaoise that night, and just the atmosphere, and what it was like for a few years. And I don't think we appreciated it enough as a county. Like Laois were really a top 6 county then. And I suppose this year, I feel, is the first year since that time that, as Ross said, there's been shades of that. Now, like, we can't compare this year to that, so I'm not doing that whatsoever. But just little things, as he said, the children coming in for matches and just the atmosphere. So if we can build on this year, you know, and as you said, go on an upward graph, it'd be brilliant. You know?
We played a really good style of football as well this year. It was total football, which was really enjoyable as well. I think supporters really liked that. And that was. Yeah,
all your games were very attractive games. Like 4 goals against Westmeath, and
and some brilliant goals. You know, brilliant football.
And of course, the game in Wexford was incredibly exciting as well.
And that feeds into bringing people to the games and them enjoying it.
The first half against Wexford, I suppose it was poor, but the character shown by the team previously, we wouldn't have fought back like that. But I remember being in the dressing room at half time, and I wasn't actually that worried. It was calm. We were 10 points down, but you just had to think, we're really in this match, you know. So if we can just stay composed, work the scores, not panic, and that was evident in the last score, where the ultimate bit of composure from Brodie, and then Garrett, who was
popped
just
over,
a new player like an 18-year-old for Laois this year, coming out of nowhere, phenomenal.
And the gaffer is brilliant in situations like that. Like you know John from interviewing him and so much and all the rest, but he's really calm as well, and he's a big believer in, you know, always playing to your values and always sticking to the plan and just believe in yourself.
But he certainly seems to be getting quite a lot out of what we have at the moment here in Laois. Like, how hard is it to be an inter-county footballer in Leinster, where Dublin are just completely dominating? Like, it's different to when you started, like Westmeath, Wexford.
You can't think like that though, because every year you go back to train, individually and collectively, it's a challenge. And all you can do is play the games that are in front of you, and you're trying to improve. If you keep looking at end goals and, you know, what's at the end of it, you're not going to concentrate on what's in front of you. And if from pre-season right the way through, you can only take it step by step. And if at some stage Dublin land in front of us, then we'll give everything to try and win that game. And other than that, we just have to keep buying into what we're doing. And there's a challenge in everything that you do and every day that you go out on the field.
You're both very closely associated with Dublin football. If you would have had a strong involvement with DCU, you'd be a close observer, and you're obviously playing in Dublin, John. What is it in Dublin like? What is it that marks them out? Like, how have they moved so far ahead of the?
I think at the moment Dublin are incredibly lucky that they have a lot of leaders in their group. They have some of the all-time great footballers in the group currently, and in the last 5 or 6 years, lads retired. They've got a solid management team, that's evident to everyone, and I think they do the basics very well. I think there's like simplicity in everything they do. When they're on the pitch, the best man in the position gets the ball. You'll never see Dublin kicking outside of the boot from 40 yards. It's all around the D. You know, the basics of their game are so good that it allows them just to consistently do that for 70 minutes, and that's why they are arguably one of the greatest teams of all time. Do
you think they've had some unfair advantages? There has been a huge disproportionate amount of money pumped into Dublin.
Yeah, to be honest with you, as a player, you can't afford to think like that. And whatever other teams are doing, let them do it. We have a system in Laois. We have a really good management team. We have a brand new centre of excellence. We have people behind us and buying into it, and we're just, as a player, you've enough to be thinking about to concentrate on the next training session, the next game, the next body fat test, the next challenge that lies ahead of you. So to be honest with you, I don't get distracted by thinking about things like that. You have to just focus on what's ahead, and we can only control our own destiny in Laois, and as I said, whatever team that we're drawn to play against, we'll be pushing towards trying to get the win every day.
Would you get frustrated at that, John? The sort of there are obvious advantages that Dublin have.
there are. It has to be addressed.
Yeah.
I think it's going back from 2005 when a deal was signed with Sports Council. Like,
Yeah.
I see it in Dublin. Like, every club has a professional full-time coach.
Yeah.
And other counties, they can't really compete with that.
Yeah.
And Dublin have a lot of advantages in that all the players are based in the city centre.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You know, I think if we go looking at all that and trying to challenge all that, we're making excuses for ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you start making an excuse for yourself, you're never going to get the best out of yourself because you have a crutch to fall on. So as Ross said, you know, we have to be the best we can be. 2019, we're in Division 3.
Yeah.
We have to be competitive in that division. We have to try and get out of it. Championship, we've Westmeath in the first round. We have to be competitive that day and try and get out of it. And that's really all we can worry about, and not make excuses for anything else. Because as I said, excuses are just something to fall on, and you can't do that.
So you're here this time next year. What would you say would be a successful year?
I would say promotion from Division 3 and last 12 in the All-Ireland Series, and a real push to get to the Super 8s. I think if we can get consistency, I've said the word a couple of times now, but I really do think that's what it's about. Just consistency of getting performances, giving the supporters something to support. They know what they're going to get each week.
You have something similar, Ross. Would that be a fair point from John?
Yeah, just consistency in our game, playing the way the manager wants us to play, and bringing people with us. And that's the big thing. If we can keep people supporting the team and driving us on, that does make a difference. And we look forward to representing Laois in 2019.
Perfect. Well, look, I want to thank John and Ross for coming to us there just literally after coming from training. I want to wish you the best in the 2019 season. You gave us some great days out in the last 12 months, so hopefully the LaoisToday team will be driving the bandwagon to Croke Park and many other places over the next 12 months. So to Ross and to John for joining us, thank you very much.